And Dr. Suresh, we would he's from AIMS, Madurai, and an excellent example of how he has used the environment in his own department and taken this forward. So over to you, Dr. Suresh.
Thank you, ma'am.
In fact, Dr. Suresh is also a prolific writer. He's written a chapter in the same book that we also have a chapter in. So,
Yes, ma'am.
I kept seeing your name, but I was not able to relate your the face with the name. But now I have. So thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am.
A warm welcome to you, Dr. Suresh.
Yes.
In the same breath, I think I would like to even introduce Dr. Sirupineni, who, of course, needs no introduction because he is won the first prize the last year and he's won it again this year. In fact, a publication with none less than MedEd Portal, because people of all of us who've read through MedEd Portal really understand the logistics behind how putting that paper together. For all of you and all of us listeners here, we want you to not just listen to them as far as what the work they have done, but we have also requested them to talk about the thought process that went into actually building on that hypothesis that they had, and then uh, putting it all together, and then seeing to it that it comes to a logical end. This, in my opinion, for both Dr. Suresh and Dr. Surapaneni, is an excellent example of educational scholarship. So with that, over to you, Dr. Suresh.
Thank you for the kind words, ma'am. Let me share my screen.
Dr. Suresh, do you want to switch on your video?
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Yes. So am I audible and is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, it's
Okay.
visible.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Suchita ma'am, Jyotsna ma'am, and the AHP team for organizing this event. And let me go ahead with my
In
presentation.
fact, if I can just stop you for a minute to say that this is also an example of what the basic scientists can do. I am also a biochemist, and it is a proud moment for me to see an anatomist and biochemist on board. Wonderful. Yes,
Yes.
please go ahead.
Thank you. So I'll be just sharing my opinions and what about our views about the article which we have published. That is teaching pterygopalatine fossa anatomy using 3D images and physical model, a novel teaching strategy. So just to give a brief overview, the circle region is the one which I'm going to talk about. I know this is very threatening to look at it. It is very confusing as well, even for an anatomist. So this is what we were designing on. So to work on it, we have seen third year medical students who have come to us seeking that they are never understood the pterygopalatine fossa anatomy, which has got intricate details to nearby areas like orbit and other areas. So the reason why as a medical teacher, we were finding it very difficult to teach to the medical student is the space itself was very small in the sense it is very deep hidden inside, and it is very difficult to show it in cadaveric specimens, which we usually teach, which we use it as a teaching medium. Sometimes students also use the routine book description. But from the students' feedback, what we have obtained, the traditional 2D diagrams were not that useful. That is what students have told us. So me and my co-authors, we looked into internet about what are the feasible teaching methods to impart pterygopalatine fossa anatomy. We ended up with 3D printed and virtual models. That's a great thing to work on, but the problem is we didn't have sufficient amount of resources or the funding to produce that kind of 3D printed or virtual models to teach students. So we brainstormed with our co-authors. We thought, let's do some simple feasible approach but at the same time, let's incorporate some 3D elements so that students have a better understanding of it. So, but at the same time, when we researched into literature, majority of the articles which have been published, they always compare a three-dimensional teaching method with a two-dimensional one. So obviously the results which have been obtained were favoring towards three-dimensional physical models. They indicated that the turning up of models, that is the tactile manipulation, promoted better understanding of spatial anatomy. That is anticipated. But what we wanted to do was, is it not possible to create a three-dimensional representation using images? Is it not possible? So we just want to venture into that phenomenon, and we wanted to compare whether a three-dimensional image which just depicts a physical model, can it create the same learning outcome? Will it not? So that was the idea which we had in the background. And we thought we will use a constructivist learning approach at the same time, which has got some emphasis on cognitive load. So when we had the mindset that if we try to minimize the cognitive load and maximize the germane load, that is the understanding of the components, students might be able to understand the spatial orientation of anatomy. That was the mindset which we had when we initiated the project. So with that as the background, we started with an objective to compare the test scores and perception scores among students who are exposed to three-dimensional images and physical models for pterygopalatine fossa anatomy in small group teaching. That was our objective. To maintain that objective, we used a non-randomized study design. We could not randomize because of time limitations. This study was conducted in Sri Manakala Vinayagar Medical College, Puducherry, which is a tertiary medical college hospital. The sample size was calculated using a previous pilot study, and we used convenient sampling. We included first-year medical students who are willing to participate in the study, and students who are absent during either on the intervention day or on the day of assessment, either during pre-test or post-test, were excluded for the study. So this is the three-dimensional image what we have framed. This is nothing much fancy. To put in simple terms, this image was created in basic PowerPoint software. We have just used triangle shaped images, shapes, and just lines to just depict the orientation. But at the same time, to give a illusion of three-dimensional representation, we have reduced the transparency. If you could change the transparency to 40 to 50%, that grayishness tinges will create some kind of a three-dimensional illusion. So basically, this image is a three-dimensional image which is being created in a two-dimensional platform. So this is the virtual image which we have created for pterygopalatine fossa. A total of 3 images were created. One is for maxillary nerve, another is for maxillary artery, another is just for the boundaries of the pterygopalatine fossa. Once we have created that image, we created the same image as a same image to a model, a physical model. We have created cardboards to create the boundaries, made some holes as well, and using electrical wires, which is readily available in and around our homes, were used with denoting the arteries and veins passing through those foramens. So we maintain that both the color coding which is given for image as well as for physical models, so that there is better leniency and description between the boundaries as well as the contents, how the structures enter the foramen and how the structures leave the foramen. That is what our intention was, to train the students to understand how the structures enter, presents, and how it leaves the foramen, and where are those boundaries located in this anatomical entity. So when we designed the model, we designed in such a way that we designed everything from lateral view for simplicity and accuracy. Once the primary and the secondary investigators validated the model, this was given to my guide, who was my co-guide during my post-graduation time. And sir validated certain models, and based on his inputs, the final model was confirmed. Then to check whether students' knowledge before and after the activity, we framed 20 multiple choice questions. We made sure that all the 20 multiple choice questions were framed based on the spatial anatomy. That is, whether this structure is forming the boundaries, which structure passes through which foramen, and where is the location of the foramen? Is it an anterior boundary or posterior boundary? All those are relevant with respect to spatial anatomy. And one difficulty what we faced was while framing the multiple choice questions, first we had the mindset of framing it with 4 options. But at last, when we piloted with a student subject, students were easily able to identify the correct answer just by ruling out the options. So to make the difficulty level to a little bit higher up, we included 5 options so that the guessing activity is minimized. And at last, 2 senior anatomists validated these MCQs for content and construct. And when the content validity index was more than 0.8, all those questions have been finalized. And to make sure about the perception questionnaire, we included 3 domains, that is interest, knowledge acquisition, and satisfaction. All those were piloted in my previous studies. We used the same questionnaire, and which is a 10-item validated questionnaire using a Likert scale of 1 to 5. So for implementation, the primary investigator, that is myself, we basically divided the students of 150 students into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. So for Group A, we further divided into 2 groups, Group A and Group B. So total of 4 groups were there. So on day 1, I took the image group, and on day 2, I took for the model group, and my co-investigators, they just reversed it. So we just wanted to minimize the investigator's bias so that one investigator is not favoring a particular type of teaching intervention. So for the intervention group, we divided the students. For the control group, we divided into 7 small groups. We gave skull as well as series of 3D images, which is given in the form of a PPT presentation in the computers. So each group was given a separate computer in the digital lab in our institute, and all the images have been preloaded. So they were requested to just view and discuss it with their peers. The first sequence image contained only the boundaries, next about the maxillary nerve, and the next images about maxillary artery. So in a period of almost 1.5 hours, everything has been finalized, and in the last 30 minutes, facilitators just discussed with the peers about their understanding. When students were able to demonstrate, we just coordinated it. And for the intervention group, similarly, we divided the students into small groups, but instead of a series of images, we gave the pre-prepared cardboard models, which is everything which is being incorporated. Students doesn't have to put anything inside. Everything was pre-designed, and students have to just tactically manipulate. They just have to turn around and identify their orientation. Everything, all the content which is being discussed was also given in the form of handout for better interpretation. So we made sure that both the subject content as well as the time spent on the teaching method were the same, so that whatever learning outcome difference which is anticipated was attributed to the respective teaching methods. So pre-test was given 1 week prior to the teaching session in the form of handouts. We kept 1 week prior because we don't want to the pre-test attitude to be retained throughout the teaching method. There is a possibility that might influence the learning outcome. So we thought 1 week was the correct time to put the pre-test. Then after the session, 4 weeks after the session, post-test and perception questionnaire was given to the student. We thought about bringing up immediate pre-test, but somehow when we read into the literature, we came upon that immediate post-test, though it tells us about the short-term retention, there is a possibility that it might influence the long-term retention of knowledge. So we didn't want the post-test to be given immediately. And we had the mindset that since pterygopalatine fossa is not a very important question from an undergraduate point of view, the 1 month time period for the post-test is not going to influence much. That was based on the discussion with my co-authors. We came up with the conclusion. And at last, we also gave 2 open-ended questions. One was what was something which really improved your understanding, both for image group as well as for physical model group, and how this session can be improved for the upcoming batch? Those were the two questions which we have given. And once all the data has been collected, we made sure that the image group was also exposed to the physical model group, and the physical model group was also exposed to the 3D image group to avoid ethical issues. So once the data has been collected, an external faculty was involved in data collection and analysis. We made sure that students who have attended only both pre-test and post-test were included for analysis. Rather than just including only post-test, we included score improvement, that is post-test minus pre-test score. And once the analysis was done using Shapiro-Wilks test, we identified the data was not normally distributed, so we opted for a Mann-Whitney U-test for analysis. So these were the results. And out of 75 students, after all the exclusion, 71 students were in the 3D image group and 73 in the physical model group. As you can see, both the score improvement were almost similar, and there was no statistically significant difference between the two groups, indicating that almost there was an equitable learning outcome between the control and the intervention group. This was actually a disappointment for us, because we had the mindset that physical model, because it will definitely do better. That is what review of literature has given us. And we were a little bit disappointed with the results, and we didn't know what to do at the earlier junctions. And with respect to perception also, even with respect to interest, knowledge acquisition, as well as in satisfaction, we couldn't get significant difference. And it was at the earlier part of our analysis, we considered our results as what we like to categorize as a failure article. We thought this doesn't have any publication potential. That was the mindset when we were just ended up with results and before writing a discussion. And in thematic analysis, we found out that in the 3D images group, students have found that the images were helpful in understanding spatial anatomy, and videos or animations could add better interpretation of 3D images. Whereas in the physical model group, students found the models and wires in understanding the course and orientation of the neurovascular structures. But at the same time, they wanted those structures to be demonstrated in the cadaveric specimens. That was something which we didn't anticipate, but we considered that. But after the analysis, and we did demonstrate the students about the location of the neurovascular structures in the specimens. So with respect to discussion, since we couldn't find any significant difference, but after doing an in-depth review of literature, we did find some studies which have a similar interpretation what we have achieved in our findings. We categorize, or we put three reasons why we couldn't get a significant difference that is not favoring a physical model. One we could anticipate is the ability of the 3D image to depict the spatial anatomy. So obviously the physical model has got the potential to depict the spatial anatomy. There is no doubt in it. But to put it in simple terms, let's say that I want to describe a person about the location of head, upper limb, and face and thorax. Obviously, this can be better explained with respect to physical models. But at the same time, this can be also drawn in a two-dimensional picture, and that also can be represented. So as long as the anatomical structure is represented in a two-dimensional way or a three-dimensional depiction, the spatial anatomy, if it is being integrated properly, then there is a possibility of equal learning outcome. This was also achieved by previous article by Kidi et al., where a snapshot of the 3D module produced an equal learning outcome when compared to a 3D module. Another one possible explanation which we could come off is the outcome measures. That is, for example, we wanted the students to take up the model, turn it in different directions to understand the orientation of the neurovascular structures. But let's say even without tactile manipulation, from a single view itself, both from physical model as well as from 3D images, students were able to understand the cores of the neurovascular structures. So in a way, uh, whether it is physical model or 3D image, it doesn't need an active turning of the model to understand the spatial anatomy, as long as a particular view can depict the spatial anatomy. So this was corroborated in a previous study where when compared to a three-dimensional model, even a traditional radiographic image of pelvic and spine module provide better interpretation, but not in upper limb and lower limb. Most probably that could be because of the two-dimensional representation of the limb module. And another one is the mode of assessment. Since our audiences are first year medical students, we immediately jumped into multiple choice options because we found students will be very, it is a feasible approach, and the students might be aware of MCQs, and it is easy for administration. Ideally, we wanted some kind of spatial MCQs, like for example, pointing at a picture, asking what is this boundaries, what is this structure. But at some point of discussion, we found that providing or asking spatial anatomy MCQs for a first year medical students might not do justice. So we dropped that plan and we continued with, or we went ahead with MCQs. But there was something which was eating our mind, in the sense when we looked into other articles, we could found that some articles have used CT and MRI images, some have used cadaveric specimens as spotters for conducting their assessment. But still we felt that is not appropriate for first year medical students. So that mode of assessment might have played some role in not achieving significant difference. Maybe if we have changed the mode of assessment, there could have been some difference favoring a particular type of intervention. That was just our hypothesis, which future studies can look upon it. Um, since we didn't get much significant difference in the perception score, but however, a higher perception score was achieved in both groups, we think this could be because of a non-traditional way of teaching. Usually the lecture mode or a small group way of teaching using a black and board teaching and PowerPoint mode, we just want to remove it. So since students are exposed to a different kind of a teaching method, most likely they were favoring towards a higher one. However, there was no significant difference between the model. This could be because either the similarity in the model, and the other one is the cognitive load impacted upon both the models. As we can see, everything was designed from a constructive point of view. That is, a layer by layer was approached. First, the basic boundaries, then the neurovascular structures, then the blood vessels. So a minimal amount of cognitive load was maintained throughout, both for 3D images as well as for a physical model. So due to the similarity in the designs, most probably students were not able to find the difference. Yes, the study was not perfect. We could find some limitations. One is was a single institutional study. So external validity, where the generalizability of the study findings, we cannot generalize that all 3D images can produce an equitable learning outcome when compared to physical models, because there are certain reviews, meta-analysis, which has proven that three-dimensional physical models always are in favor when compared to two-dimensional or three-dimensional images. Might be, we think this could be because of the area, the region, the anatomical region what we have taken. Moreover, the representational version, we have simplified the anatomy in such a way that some complicated neurovascular structures were removed, so that we are not overimposing cognitive load for the learners. And another one which we could think of is the confounding factors, the spatial ability of the learner. Not all the learner will have a equal spatial ability. Some are very good and some are low in spatial ability. Uh, one reviewer during publication was suggesting that I should have opted for mental rotation test. That is a particular test which we can divide the learner into a low spatial group and a high spatial group. And he was suggesting that based on that, if you could have interpreted, I mean, for example, if low spatial group was favoring any particular type of teaching method, that could have added better quality to my article. That was one suggestion which really kept us thinking. Another one is the learning style. Obviously, this is a visual medium, but we couldn't categorize how many are visual learners, how many are multimodal, how many are unimodal learners. We couldn't categorize all those things. And obviously, there are factors which are present outside the study design. A highly motivated learner must have put the sincere effort and time and duration for recollection or drawing diagrams that could have influenced the learning outcome. These factors has to be considered before generalizing the study findings. So our implication, it has got some potential in the sense that these are all easy, feasible, and very cost-effective approaches to teach spatial anatomy. And also it is very less cognitively demanding. And especially this 3D image, after this, we incorporated this as a for a lecture group. It is easy to implement this from a larger lecture group, and it can easily rectify the drawbacks of physical model, that is the cost, storage requirements, as well as the physical damage. Everything can be prevented. But the most important thing is this is a very simple mechanism by which it can be easily created. So schematic and representational images has got huge potential in the sense that if educators really get trained, these are all very few things which can be easily incorporated using Microsoft PowerPoint, which doesn't have some additional software skills. Just drawing a line diagram or using shapes, using mouses can create some models which can be incorporated in other discipline as well. So to conclude, a 3D image can provide equivalent learning outcome, but it has got limited generalizability in the sense that the physical model superiority depends on anatomical region. For example, a physical model of a heart has got better superiority when compared to a three-dimensional image. But we cannot always compare, we cannot always say that a physical model is always superior when compared to three-dimensional images with respect to all anatomical regions. There are certain exceptions, and one such exception is which we have brought it, that is pterygopalatine fossa. Thank you. With this, these are my references, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Suresh, for this
Thank you.
wonderful presentation. You really took us through your journey, and I'm glad you also referred to what the reviewers said, and
Yes.
you've taken cognizance to that. And I'm sure as you use different models, you will incorporate all the suggestions made. And I always feel that we improve, when we get feedback from the reviewers.
Yes. Yes.
And yes,
Really, ma'am.
thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
And now over to Dr. Surapineni.
Yes, I'll stop sharing. Yes, I have stopped sharing, sir. You can please continue, sir. Thank you.
So could you all see my slides?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
We can.
Thank you, Dr. Josna, and thank you, Dr. Sucheta ma'am. So a very good evening to all. Thank you for taking the time to join us, all of us, for this session today. So Livocina, the Ectros Curse, is a narrative educational tale driven game-based learning innovation designed to help the students immerse, engage, and learn complex concepts in a fun but yet academically rigorous way. So I'll now take you all on a very short journey through my innovation to show how the educational tales or the usage of the storytelling and the gameplay transformed the way the students learn. So I would wanted to disclose that apart from me working as a vice principal and professor of biochemistry and head of the Department of Medical Education in Panimalar Medical College Hospital and Research Institute, Chennai, I don't have any conflict of interest or anything else to disclose with this presentation. So the objectives for today's session are to explain the rationale for incorporating narrative and game-based learning in medical education, describe the design and pedagogical framework of Livogina, the ICTROS course, understand the evaluation, impact and outcomes of implementing narrative gameplay as a teaching tool, discuss practical considerations for integrating game-based learning into medical curricula, and finally gain insights on manuscript development, submission process and lessons learned until publication through Mid-Ed portal. So as you all know that this is published in this paper is published in the Mid-Ed portal, which is the peer-reviewed journal of teaching and learning resources by the AAMC, American Association of Medical Colleges. This journal is very unique in a way that all the educators can find the complete ready to implement curricula, including the objectives, instructor guides, everything, and the assessment that we have used. And also it will help you to find and adapt the resources immediately, so without any putting any additional efforts. And you can scan the QR code to view and download the full article along with the complete game resources. So this is what is the beauty of the Mid-Ed portal. You can download all the appendices in this particular article. I have had around A to J, all the appendices that you can see and you can download. Now, we all know that the medical education needs contemporary adaptations and also the futuristic models, because for a simple reason that the learners are completely different. We are teaching the millennials. So with evolving learner profiles and expectations, the students now prefer active, interactive learning experiences over the traditional passive formats. So, and also the traditional teaching approaches often fall short in maintaining attention and encouraging the deeper understanding. So therefore, there is a strong need for sustained engagement and active learning strategies to ensure long-term retention and application in learning. So when we look specifically at biochemistry, in context of biochemistry, students often find the subject very challenging because the concepts are highly abstract and many struggle to make clinical correlations. And there is usually a lack of repeated reinforcement, and the nomenclature can be sometimes complicated, making the subject very harder for them to remember. So as a result, there are significant challenges in recall and long-term retention, especially when they move from theory to clinical application. So when we look with the over 23 years of experience and having experimented with multiple educational innovations, I still felt that there was room for something more. So I wanted a model that is truly innovative, deeply student-centered, highly impactful, and most importantly, generalizable across the institutions. So what could address these gaps in learning? So the gamification and the game-based learning are the two important these things armories we have in our armory, and I felt that the gamification game-based learning can fill up these gaps because these approaches make the learning immersive, interactive, and competitive, helping the students, preferably the first year students, stay engaged while they actively applying the concepts. So I've created, by using the game-based learning and the gamification, I have created the game universe. GAME is an acronym for the gamification in medical education. And when I created this, the first one that I have tried is MetaPad, which is the metabolic pathways decoded, which is published in the BMC Medical Education. And this is the award that I got in 2023 AHPE. And now the second innovation is Livogina, the ICTROS course. And this year I got it as a best published research award from the AHPE. Now, I would like you all to pause for a moment And I want you all to take a slow look at this image. So what does it remind you of? Just take a quick pause and look at this image.
A time when children were without the mobiles and were listening to their grandmothers telling
Perfect.
a story.
Yes. Yeah, the important thing is listening to some stories. Josna, I could not see the text. Can you
Yeah,
just put the responses?
yeah. They're talking about stories being told by the grandmother.
Yeah.
And
And
I would like
children
to
are
add,
engrossed.
yeah, I'd like to add that the children are listening with so much of interest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this will take most of us, when we look at this, most of us are taken back to our childhood when we would sit together in groups, completely absorbed in stories or the fairy tales being told by our elders. And also, we all love the fairy tales because they capture the attention effortlessly, then they evoke the curiosity and make learning memorable. So I wondered if fairy tales or the stories can engage us so deeply as children. Why can't we use them in the medical education to explain the complex concepts just as effectively? And for this purpose, I coined the term as the not the fairy tales, but I wanted to use the term the educational tales. So when we apply the educational tales or the storytelling to a game context, then it will allow us to combine these narrative educational tales, the gameplay, the learning, interaction, engagement, and also all these components in a single experience. And when we do this, the students not only enjoy the process, but also actively participate, collaborate, and think critically. So the game design was developed on the foundations of strong educational theories. Now I wanted to introduce those theories which acts as the foundation for designing and development of this game. The first one is the narrative paradigm theory. The second one is constructive learning theory, and finally the flow theory. I will take you through very briefly through these important theories. The first one is narrative paradigm theory, which is proposed by Walter Fishers. So it highlights that the humans are the natural storytellers. We interpret the world better through the narratives, not just through the logic or the facts. So in this particular model, the learning content is embedded within an engaging storyline. Then players make sense of knowledge by following the story, and the complex concepts becomes easier to understand because they are presented with a particular context, and also they are presented with a meaning. Now, the second theory, which acts as the foundation for the designing and development of this particular game, was the constructive learning theory, which is proposed by Jean Piaget's. So, according to this theory, the learning happens best when learners actively construct the knowledge rather than receiving it passively. So, in this context, the players interact, explore, and solve the problems instead of just consuming the information. So, the storyline helps connect the new knowledge to the prior experiences that they have already gained, thereby making the learning meaningful. And of course, through quests, the decisions, and the challenges that they come across in this gameplay, the learners build the deeper cognitive structures. Then the third one is the flow theory, which is proposed by Mihaly C., which actually describes to a psychological state of complete immersion where the learners are fully absorbed and engaged because the level of challenge matches their skills. In the game, the narrative progressively, or the education tale progressively introduce the challenges, and the difficulty increases slowly, keeping the players engaged rather than overwhelmed. And now this educational framework shows how game-based learning promotes engagement across the 4 dimensions, that is the affective engagement, behavioral engagement, cognitive engagement, and the social or cultural engagement. It is supported by the core learning design elements like the knowledge, incentive systems, mechanics, game mechanics, assessment, aesthetics, and the narrative. And all these components are further strengthened by the 4 key components, that is affect, that gives the emotional design; motivation, promoting the self-efficacy and the goal orientation; cognition, that establishes the context, scaffolding, and the meaningful interaction; and finally the social learning, which leading to participation and also the interaction with the peers. So in this particular study, my hypothesis was that the implementation of the narrative educational tail game based learning in biochemistry will significantly improve the learner engagement in terms of significant knowledge gain, sustained motivation to learn, and better retention of concepts compared to traditional instructional method, irrespective of the preferred learning styles. Now let's move on to the methodology. So for this game, the topic I chose was jaundice, as it is a clinically significant and frequently encountered condition. Introducing it very early in their medical career, that is at the first professional year of MBBS, helps promote early clinical exposure. However, the subject is conceptually complex and has a high chance of misconceptions and require accurate interpretation of laboratory parameters, which many students struggles with. So it became an ideal topic for a narrative educational tale based game to simplify and clarify the learning of the learners. Now, in the CBME curriculum, the jaundice is included in phase 1 biochemistry, mapped to core competencies, that is BC 5.8 and BC 11.1, with horizontal integration through physiology and vertical integration with the pathology and medicine. I titled this particular game as Livogina, the Icteros curse. So Livo comes from liver, Gina comes from Genesis, meaning origin or creation, and the Icteros is derived from the Greek word for the jaundice. So together, Livogina reflects the origin story of jaundice from the liver, and the Icteros curse signifies the challenge students must solve through the knowledge and the gameplay. And this particular study was approved by our institutional human ethics committee before the start of the study. And this is a mixed method study with 150 first year MBBS students conducted at Panimalar Medical College Hospital and Research Institute, Chennai. So the educational objectives of this game includes to ensure the learners identify different types of jaundice with causes, mechanisms, and clinical features, interpret the laboratory findings in each type of jaundice, identify the differential diagnosis based on the laboratory findings and the clinical features, choose appropriate treatment options for all types of jaundice. So before we began the game, all students completed the WARC questionnaire to identify their preferred learning styles. So this step was crucial for me to later analyze how effectively the narrative educational tale game-based game engages the diverse learners regardless of their dominant learning style. So before implementing the game, I ensured two key prerequisites were in place. The first was the faculty, that's the facilitator orientation. All the facilitators were briefed on the game mechanics, rules, learning objectives, and how to guide the session effectively. And the second, the baseline knowledge of the students to effectively engage. Now, coming to the implementation. So these are all the various steps. So first of all, the game video, as I already repeatedly telling you that there is an educational tale based game. That means that there is an educational tale the story was written, it was created, and the video was created. So the game video was played as an immersive anchor at the beginning. Then the students connect to the story and orient to their missions. Then they were divided into 25 teams consisting of 6 per team. Then each team was subdivided into within the team. They were subdivided into 3 sub teams consisting of 2 people, 2 learners, and 1 facilitator was allotted to each group. And then each team gets the complete game materials and kick start their rescue mission. And here is a quick glimpse into how the game functions. So the game is played on 100 box color coded board, red, yellow, and violet. The teams draw the cards and answer the questions to move ahead. The movement is based on the color matching between the card and the board. Then the correct answers allow the advancement, whereas the incorrect or the no response stalls the movement of the game. And certain boxes represents the characters and trigger special team based activities. Now, and also apart from these things, the game also will have the fun cards and the twists like bonus moves, then skip turns or the reverse movement, maintaining the energy and suspense in the game. Then the game continues until one team successfully completes all challenges and saves the king. Throughout, the facilitators validate the answers of the questions that they come across when they pick up the card and move throughout the game, and making sure that they ensure learning continuity. And at the end of the game, all the answers were discussed with the students by their facilitators in a 30-minute session to ensure complete learning of the content. And this is the game video, learning through the narrative educational tale.
Livogera, the Yggdrasil curse. The magic white land, Livogena, consists of the Stellian mainland and island of Asina, ruled by King Reuben and Queen Liverna, with newborn Prince Erlich as the only heir. Livogena is known for its crystals that are formed on the Skleros Hills in the island of Asina. Only the winged unicorn, Splendora, can cross the Bay of Bilis and reach the island. These crystals are believed to bring good fortune to the kingdom. The royal family and residents of Livogena worship the sun god Helios to keep the crystals healthy. But with the evil intention of conquering Livogena, Witch Verdena, who lives in the castle of gods, has poisoned the king and queen with the Ictros potion and has also abducted the newborn Prince Erlich by casting a spell on the royal guards of the palace, Mokolons. Livogena and the crystals are now under the Ictros curse. The crystals are losing their power and turning yellow. In addition, Galvanos, the evil monsters created by Witch Verdena, are causing havoc in the kingdom by killing innocent citizens and destroying their livelihood. To save the royal family and the crystals, sun god Helios sends angel Albumina, who reveals that the antidote for Ictros poison is the hepatoteria drug found inside the Yakna caves in the island of Asina. She seeks your help in her mission to save the royal family and the crystals before they lose their powers completely. Your mission is to find Splendora, who can take you to the island of Asina, win over the Galvanos, rescue Prince Erlich, find the antidote, Hepatoteria, destroy Witch Verdena, and save the king and queen. But beware of the witch's evil spell, which will hinder your progress in this mission. Don't worry, it's not all bad. You will meet Fauchiter, the magic pearl, 3 times during the mission. He will help you with the challenges that you face in this rescue mission and to save the crystals. Good luck! Livogera, the
And so the game starts with this, as I already highlighted to you, the process of the game. And this was the game board that was designed. So in total, if you look at it, the game incorporated 91 cards and 9 activity tasks. So of these, 75 were the question cards covering 25 knowledge-based questions, 25 on differential diagnosis, 15 related to investigations, and 10 focusing on the treatment. Alongside these, there were 16 fun cards to bring unpredictability and also the excitement in the game. And 9 character-based activities like crossword, riddles, hangman, etc. were designed to promote the teamwork, then creativity, and also to promote the active engagement. And the fun types, these are the 16 fun cards, and the fun types were Connectirus, Lucky Charm, Hemocide, and the Faucheter. So for example, Connectius, the team, if they get into this, the team loses a turn and moves back one step, representing the complications like Connectirus. Lucky Charm gives a bonus move forward, boosting the motivation during the gameplay. So to make the educational tale engaging and also the relatable, I created 9 fantasy characters, each symbolizing a core concept in jaundice. These characters were Angel Albumina, Splendora, Galbinos, Prince Erlish, Hepasoteria, Witch Verdina, Royal Guards Glucurons, Queen Liverna, and King Reuben. Then, to evaluate the learning outcomes, I assessed both immediate impact and also the long-term retention. Students first completed a pre-test followed by a post-test with 20 MCQs, equally divided into recall type and also the application type. That is, knows and knows how levels were assessed. And for long-term retention, I compared the internal assessment scores of this intervention batch with those of the previous non-intervention batch. To evaluate the evaluation of the narrative game, to evaluate the game, 2 types of feedback were collected. First, the quantitative feedback through a 32-item perception questionnaire on 5-point Likert scale, and also a 11-item feedback questionnaire on a 10-point scale. And second, as I already told you, this is a mix. The approach that I have adopted was mixed methods approach. So the second one is qualitative insights, qualitative approach. The qualitative insights were gathered through the focus group discussions and also in-depth interviews with both students and faculty. Now coming to the data analysis, I used SPSS version 17. Descriptive statistics were presented in mean plus or minus SD, the standard deviation. And to compare the outcomes, I applied appropriate statistical tests such as the t-test, ANOVA, Mann-Whitney, and the Kruskal values. A p-value of less than 0.05 was considered as statistically significant. And moving on to the results, as you can see here, the immediate impact was remarkable. The average score jumped from 5.5 in the pre-test into the 11.2 in the post-test on a 20-point scale, and it was highly significant. And the internal assessment was scored out of 100 points and compared with the previous 2 non-intervention batches. And the improvement was also statistically significant, with the intervention batch scoring higher mean value of 63.8. And here is the quick glimpse of student perceptions based on the 32-item questionnaire. Around over 99% felt the game created a fun, engaging, and non-threatening environment that boosted motivation and curiosity. Over 96% reported it strengthened learning and encouraged active discovery, collaboration, and competitiveness. Over 90% agreed it was highly inclusive across different learning styles, making it truly universal among the learners. And as you can see, the average ratings across all 11 feedback items ranged from 9.4 to 9.7 out of 10, reflecting exceptionally positive student responses. Then the student feedback, when we did the thematic analysis also, the student feedback highlighted 5 key themes. That is, the game made learning easier and clearer. It was seen as an innovative method. It helped in self-assessment with immediate feedback. Then it created enjoyable learning experiences, and the facilitator's role kept them engaged. And these are some of the voices from the students. So they mentioned that these are the direct quotes from their responses. It was really nice, and I not only enjoyed it, but was also able to learn those chapters easily, since biochemistry is a difficult subject for me. Learning is not boring and stressful now. I would love to learn like this. And even faculty had positive experience and feedback, noting that facilitating Livogena was a unique experience. I observed how engaged and enthusiastic the students became during the gameplay. It was clear that this approach added a layer of excitement to their learning, and I believe it deepened their understanding of the jaundice. And most importantly, what are the challenges faced during the development? During the development of the game, I faced several challenges. First was ensuring the high educational rigor. Then second was maintaining continuous learner engagement throughout the gameplay, which is very, very challenging. And making bringing a striking balance between the creativity and, more importantly, the clinical accuracy. Also, another challenging aspect is the facilitator training and their preparation for the game arrangements were also crucial. And finally, it was a very resource and time incentive, and managing the copyright and permissions added more complexity to the preparation of the development of the game. So the key takeaways are the narrative game-based learning, enhanced clinical reasoning and lab interpretation. Students reported high engagement, low stress, and better recall. It supports multiple learning styles, encouraging the teamwork, peer-to-peer interactions, and the self-assessment. It is effective, low cost, and easily reproducible, and it has strong potential for wider adoption across the topics and the institutions. Based on the strong learner response, the next steps include expanding the narrative game model to other subjects and senior learners, then scaling it to the other institutions, developing a digital or mobile version for the wider access and self-paced learning, for the access for learners across the country, and conducting a longitudinal studies to assess long-term impact on clinical reasoning and also the impact on the early clinical exposure and also the patient care. And also, I'm very happy to share that this article featured among top 10 publications of 2024 on the MEDET portal. And what are the scope of narrative games looking ahead? The scope of narrative games can be greatly expanded. They're not limited to group play alone. They can be adapted for self-paced learning. It can be used in the team-based format when you are using the team-based learning, and also serves as a powerful reinforcement tools. They also align with modern assessment frameworks like assessment as learning and also the assessment for learning. So as you all know, that assessment as learning is to promote reflection and self-assessment, and assessment for learning to drive the ongoing improvement in the learners. And these are the list of innovations in my game universe until now. And after Livogena, with the encouragement that I got from the students, I have created two more narrative education tale-based games. That is, one is the titled as Pancreata, the Keto Struggle, which is published in the BAMBED. And the third one is Equilibria, the Battle to Balance, which is created for understanding of the acid-based disorders, and it is published in the Advances in Physiology Education. Now let's have a glimpse through the publication process in the MEDET portal, because it's very unique. So I want to give little my experience with the MEDET portal. The submission to MEDET portal followed a rigorous process. It began with the submission of the education summary report along with the complete publication ready appendices, which is mandatory. The material was then screened by the MEDET portal team to ensure it met stringent copyright compliance and high scholarly standards. This is highly challenging for me. Following that, it moved on into a single masked peer review process and finally proceeded to the editorial decision. And I was truly taken aback by the rigorous attention to the copyright compliance by the journal. Every single visual that I have used, every single term that I have used, and even the game mechanic had to be fully owned by you, or it has to be licensed, ensuring the high standards of the academic integrity. And for this game, I followed the following appendices like pre and post test, game instructions, game story, game video, game board, game cards, questions and answer key, game activities, perceptions questionnaire, and the feedback questionnaire. Everything is in the journal. And this journey, what are the lessons learned with the submission to the MEDET portal? So the whole journey with the MEDET portal, starting from the publication to the ending, this journey taught me far beyond research. It shaped how I look at innovation. I learned what true academic rigors feel like. Every detail had to be precise. I was genuinely struck by the strict adherence to the copyright and the IP compliance. And I also realized the importance of proper citation and the permissions, even for the smallest content that is included in your ESR. And also, I experienced a very constructive expectative driven peer review, because I got amazed with the peer review report that I got. It was very constructive and it is very exhaustive. That strengthened the innovation. And I also understood that the Meded portal values only when it is practical. More importantly, it is replicable, and ultimately it is generalized across the world, across all the institutions at the world. And these are the session objectives where we started, and hope by virtue of this session, I made all the learners to meet all the session objectives as mentioned here. And I want to end my presentation, this presentation, by showing you what I actually preach and I practice since 23 years. Since 2003, the day I entered into a medical school as a medical teacher and the medical educator, I always believe that teaching is not just about imparting knowledge, it is about igniting a passion that inspires a lifelong learning and discovery. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
Oh my God, Dr. Surapani, we are absolutely spellbound. Fantastic work, fantastic journey, and how I wish I was a student again once again. And wonderful storytelling. So, with that, I think Jyotsna is ready to take this further with the questions if there are. One more thing, I just a question from me, if I may ask, be the first one to ask you.
Yes.
What about the MedEd portal, the questions that came in? How often did it have to go through the review process?
I think
Oh,
I only had the 2 rounds.
2 rounds?
Because
Okay.
Dr. Sucheta, they don't take much time on the review process and going round 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and 5 rounds and all, because they take much time in screening your whole manuscript before it goes to the review.
Okay.
And many a times it gets rejected at that point of time itself, when they feel that you have problems with the copyright permissions, you have the you have the problem with the academic integrity, and you have the problem with the usage of the language and the words, and it gets rejected that time. And they tell us very clearly why they are rejecting it. It is highly transparent process. I've published more than 250 to 300 papers in across all the disciplines, but I have never seen such type of system except Medit portal. Nowhere.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Sure.
Excellent.
Thank you. So
Krishna,
with
wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed it. I mean,
Thank
I
you, sir.
think the kind of depth you've gone is very good. And I think what you talked about Medit portal is absolutely fine. I mean, we also have 2, 3 publications and I've
Yes.
gone through this process so well. What I wanted to ask you is that the kind of analysis and assessment you have done is that 75 cards and all that is mainly a cognitive assessment, right? And I think it is mainly at what level? You must have done at knows how or something like that. I just wanted to ask you, have you tried developing a game where you could create teams and also see whether the students form teams and they also have some professionalism or group work or teamwork which would enhance their attitudes and that kind of a work. I mean, have you really thought creating games for this? Because cognitive games, I think what you've shown is a good example. And I like that concept of also using stories and engaging students and all. I'm sure we can improvise and get Indian stories and all. That's a wonderful thing. But I think the effort what you have really taken, uh, have you ever thought whether we can expand it to the especially attitudes and teamwork? Because see, skills may be difficult, but at least you can go at a higher level of knowledge and you can go at a different level. So I don't know what is your thought on this.
Yes, sir. I balance that because this is built upon this game has been built upon mainly on the early clinical exposure for the first year, first professional year medical students. So I balanced both the recall, the nose, and the nose how level also. You can see all the resources that are freely available. You can see all the questions and all were the case based and all. It is balanced. But as you rightly said, sir, when I observe the whole game mechanics, they are all working in the teams, and most of them when we use it now, the trend is all these children out of 150, by at the mid of their their first year, like maybe after 6 months, they don't even know who are their classmates. So by virtue of this, we randomly put them into the groups, and they start interacting with their peers, and then peer-to-peer interaction was there. And during that time, yes, as you rightly said, we can conceptualize to the higher level, and also we can plan for assessing the professionalism, ethics, and the AdCom components also, sir. It can be done very well. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
are
that's what
working
I
on.
think. I thought it must have happened, but I think you have not picked it up. For your next game, I'm sure
Yes.
you should plan it that way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can do that, sir. This is the best way that we can assess all these important traits in the learners.
What about other departments?
Yes, sir. Now, physiology, based on this, physiology is planning, sir. It's under the development they are going to implement for this batch.
Are you selling this, and what is the cost effectivity?
No, sir. I don't have any intention of selling it.
No, no, I'm asking this very seriously because I remember once I had been to APMEC and I had attended a workshop on games in medical education.
Yes,
And
sir.
time Cook was there, and he was a big person. And actually, they showed some games. That time he said that, people pay a limited amount. The effort you put here is a huge amount of effort. It's
Yes,
not a small amount of effort. It's your time and energy is huge. Now, unless this gets disseminated and spread by many people, you will not be able to, and people have usually are not ready to pay for a huge amount of money for this.
yes,
See,
sir.
now you have done this as an educational experiment, you have done it with passion, which is very good. But now, if you want to make this process as one of the coaching methods and
Yes,
you want to make it a sustainable, we have to create a business model.
yes, sir.
Think about. So, if people are ready to pay, say, 500 rupees per person and or something like that, and then or whatever amount you decide, which is reasonable by the students, you can ask students only. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think if you are able to really develop this and create similar kind of things for difficult in many subjects, I think it could be a lesson for many others. Think about it, and instead of
Actually, that acid-base balance, introducing it at first year level, I would love to see what you've done with that. With that,
Yeah,
I,
it's
I'm
because
really
the
happy.
concept
Every
and
subject has to take
yes,
some difficult talks like this, topics
yes,
like this,
yes.
and create and make it a sustainable business
yes.
model. I think we have to think about it.
Sir, like
Well
last
done.
year also you were there, sir. I remember because we were interacting when I presented the MetaPad paper, which is published in BMC Medical Education. After that, I continued and I created an app, and it's available. MetaPad is available in App Store and Play Store also, and it's free, sir, for all the learners. And many people are using it now. With it's a puzzle-based game.
Oh, very nice. I
Yes,
think
Very
I really
nice.
like it.
yes, sir.
I
I
really
shared that
appreciate
link
it.
also, sir. You can
Yes, yes.
download and you can use it, sir.
I'll download just now. Is it for
Yes.
iPhone also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is there, sir. MetaPad, sir.
Okay, done. So all of us, I'm sure, will
Excellent.
do it
Yeah,
today.
that's what we can do. Thank you. Hmm.
Yeah.
There is a question by Yogesh who says how many topics are ready and how much time consuming for students and for faculty is it?
Yes, sir.
Mm.
First, this is the first one in the narrative educational team, education tail-based card and board games. Then as I showed you, one we decided, I devised for explaining the complex concept of diabetic ketoacidosis, and that's called as pancreata, the keto struggle. And the third one is equilibria, which is created for acid-base disorders. So all the three were open. I think openly it is available even in advances in physiology education. Like Medet portal, I have created an education link for the supplementary material. Everything you can just download with one click.
Okay, thank you. And he also asks, have you incorporated into the timetable?
Yes, in the
That is that
yes,
is most
yes,
important,
yes, yes.
because otherwise we won't be able to
And
have such a great impact.
it takes 2 hours to 2.5 hours
Hmm.
for the game
Okay.
to get completed, including the 30 minutes, and our maximum the cap is only 3 hours.
And the
So
quiz and everything
yes,
included.
yes, everything. Even the
Perfect.
30 minutes briefing with the facilitators, interaction, explaining the answers for all the 91 cards and all those things, reinforcing the concepts, everything. It will not take more than 3 hours.
Did you face any resistance from the facilitators and the faculty? I
Yeah,
noticed that it's a single author paper.
Yes.
I was just, I mean, forgive me for saying this, but I hate to not say it. Why only single author?
That is because initially nobody will believe you with your concepts, and people think that this all will not work, and then you end up with standing alone and doing something, right?
Holding the baby alone, is it?
Yes, yes. So, but
All
but
right.
still go ahead and then see. Then once we start
Yeah,
doing it,
I
and then
really, I really like he does. I mean, I'm very happy that you stood alone and you did not give unnecessary gift authorships.
so people didn't come forward, and then they don't trust actually. And also one thing that I understand is when you wanted to do something, you need to understand what are the foundation pillars for this your concept that you wanted to bring, what educational theories actually supports you. So once you understand that, then you get the trust on your own concepts, and then the belief that it will work for the learners. But many people do not want to spend much time, and various other traits which we
Okay.
we can't
Thank you.
comment upon. So then we started, and then after once the facilitators were trained, and then once they saw interacting, the peer learning, peer these things, then it went on well. And after that, the facilitators has changed their perspectives. The faculty felt that yes, it works.
I think another thing which I really appreciate, Krishna, is your paper I had read, but I never realized the depth of thinking you had gone through. You know, when you see the paper or a product, I think you don't realize what was the thought process. It might be worthwhile. I mean, your talk definitely made it sure why did you do things and all, but it might be worthwhile writing about how to go about these games and what kind of a planning and thinking you need to have. You know, publication is another aspect,
Yeah.
which is Reddit portal. But what was the thought process you went through, and how did you develop? Maybe others who are trying to develop similar kind of games in other subjects
Yeah.
might gain a lot out of that process. So the thinking process is more important, and
Yes.
I'm sure the product is the paper. But I think many times, you know, when you read the paper, you don't you only look at, okay, he has done a game and he has just seen there's a cognitive improvement and this is useful from six. And actually, if you really see, though you are significant from that, many people would criticize that the score is increased
Yes.
only from 52 to 62, which is not
Exactly.
a very big thing. But what is
Exactly.
more important is the engagement,
Yes.
teamwork. So the other
Correct.
aspects need to be really also captured. I don't,
Exactly, sir.
and I think that is something we should do at a next paper.
Yes, sir.
And see, you have to really see what is what they can impact size, you know, and that is
Exactly, sir.
also important. So I
Effect
think,
size.
you
Yeah.
know, these kind of things are so once the students are tuned to this, you have to really look at these, I mean, beyond statistics, I feel so.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
in fact, that is the reason why we had this, session in the first place. Jyotsna and I, we sort of brainstormed and we said, this is, what you just brought out about your journey was very important. So, with that, over to Jyotsna and the questions.
I also wanted to tell one thing in continuation of Dr. Sucheta, as Dr. Avinash sir also has highlighted. In paper, we have the word limit, and we can't put everything. And also in Medit portal, the ESR, it has to be written in a very precise way and at a little higher scholarly level. So you can't put everything like the theories and all those things. But as sir said, the process, how we
Mm.
conceptualize, what made us, how did we, that is what is very, very important. I think that this platform is suffice that gap.
In fact, we plan to even write, we will, once our web page is ready, we hope that we can, you can put your story on the web page, and we'll take it forward. Thank you so much. Over to Jyotsna.
Yeah. So we have had two lovely presentations. One who worked with a low cost setting, innovative, and tried to, I mean, the objective of both the presentations was improved learning among the students. But the way both of them have approached is very contrasting to each other, though the end game was similar. So in one case, we found that the person used a very low cost method, something which was very simple, very easily available, In the other, we find something which is very fascinating, and we all want to actually do the game, explore it further ourselves, and see how the quiz was, how it was received by the students, and what we can learn from it. So, two ends of the spectrum, we have had two research papers, and both of them won the Best Paper Award. And if I were to summarize as to what brought about the best paper was, there was a systematic approach to literature research, and as well as the way in which it was written and presented throughout the paper. So this is a point for our younger researchers over here who would like to publish more. Pay attention to the literature and how you are presenting it to your audience. Second thing is using educational theories in terms of how the theory is being supported, and also your innovation adds on to that. So Dr. Surapaneni very nicely summarized three theories which he has adopted. I wish to see more of such theories from Dr. Suresh also. Then it's also something as in what demand is there, that is the one which is going to drive the need, right? So in case one, there was a low cost innovative approach there. The funding was limited, and they wanted to think out of the box as to how they can implement a 3D model. The attention to detail was enormous there as well. In this case, and also the first case, it was more of a collaborative model. In this case, there were naysayers, there were people who had doubts, but then you stood your ground, and then you have put forth your idea, and you have brought it to one fraction stage. So that's really amazing. What I wanted to check with both of you was this. In both the cases, you have adopted a positivist approach. You wanted to measure outcomes. Is there any other outcome which you would have loved to explore? I will leave the floor to Dr. Suresh and then to Dr. Krishna Mohan Surapaneni.
Uh, Yes, ma'am. We did use a post-positivist approach where we can quantify everything that was used. But apart from that, we wanted to measure about the cognitive load behind the 3D image model as well as the physical model. We thought we will incorporate it, but at the same time, we thought, are we overdoing our research? At some point of time, we felt that. Okay, let's restrict ourselves to one domain, let it do it. We will if things are working well, then we might think about cognitive load or spatial ability perception from a later point of view as a future researcher. So that was our mindset, but that didn't happen, and we moved out of the institute and
Okay. What's your take on it, Dr. Surapaneni?
Yeah, as Avinash Supe sir has already highlighted, rather than the cognitive knows how. So I also in mainly in the gameplay, we get an opportunity to see their behaviors, their attitudes, their professionalism, how well they are able to motivated, how well they are engaged, the peer-to-peer interaction. This can be observed in some way, and then the quantify, and then these observations are presented. I think that will make more sense as well.
I think you're getting more ideas for your future research.
Definitely.
Okay.
Observed all these things, but as you rightly said, our educational objectives are different. So I only went in that direction. But when I look at all these 25 groups performing, then facilitators interact with them, all of us have felt that lively environment, active engagement, that's all happening. But we have to capture it. So that's one missing. And to some extent, I captured with the in-depth interviews and all those things, but more we have to add more to it.
Yeah. Dr. Suresh, since your focus was on the students' understanding and kind of demonstrating, would OSPE be a better fit in this scenario for assessment rather than an MCQ? I'm just
yes,
wondering.
ma'am. We did thought about it, ma'am, but not from an OSPE point of view. We thought, is it possible to utilize some cadaveric specimens or some images which can capture a three-dimensional representation, maybe labeling it and asking what is that structure, where is that boundary, maybe in a physical skull, all those things. But it had some drawbacks as well. We felt that being first-year students, are we do we have the time and resources to conduct it in a large group setting? What is the validity and reliability of those assessment? Those were being questioned, and we wanted to have a very safer approach towards assessment, and we ended up with the MCQs. But at least we were happy in the sense that our assessment was validated, the content construct validated, everything was quantifiable, and with the appropriate level of difficulty for a first year student based on the pilot study. So in a sense, I was satisfied with my approach, but in a corner of a mind, I thought maybe for a final year student, we should have gone a little bit ahead of the assessment. That thought was still in the mind, maybe a scope of future improvement.
Yeah. So I come from a constructivist background in terms of research. I do not usually like this pre and post designs, but would rather explore what is the impact of the students, something what Supe sir also highlighted in terms
Yes,
of the hidden curriculum,
yes,
how
yes.
it brought about the collaboration, how it brought about an interaction among students and things like that.
Sure.
I had one more question for Dr. Surapaneni, and that's something which is being reflected in our chatbot too. How did you go about designing the game? What platform did you use? And what was the cost involved? Because many people would love to replicate it. They just want to know how you went about this process.
That's actually is a very good question. And when I was actually designing, thinking about, I wrote the story, I finished it. Okay, now we have to make it as a video. So I'm not that techno savvy to have it. I use the Apple this thing, but the platform. But what the best that I did was I called the senior students who are all very techno savvy. I gave the storyboard. I took all the characters and everything, and then I gave it to them. They composed everything. You can see in the credits, all these children only have done. So there is no cost
So,
involved, nothing.
Supranami, I think today, I think with Canva and
Yeah, we can do, sir.
InShot, I think this is so easy.
Yes, sir.
You just spend some time, half an hour with all these apps. Many of these are free versions, and you
Yes,
can,
sir.
or Canva Pro if you have.
Yes,
These
sir.
are, I mean, especially in shots, creating videos is so easy today.
Yes, sir.
And I think all of us should really learn it to really do that. I did not comment on Suresh's paper, but Suresh, I also enjoyed your paper.
Yes, sir.
It was very nice because it happened first and he was the last. So I think I did not really comment, but that was also a great effort. And I really appreciate both of you. And I really thank the AHP judges for selecting these classic two papers.
Thank you, sir.
Even
And
the voiceover was the our first batch student, one girl. So I found that okay, these are all the people that they are involved, and they're very motivated and they have certain skills. So I called them and I asked them to do it, and it's the outcome from them.
Dr. Suresh, I have a question for you. In the era of AI generated videos,
Yes,
which can bring in any 3D image live,
yes.
so what do you think about the longevity or applicability of your model for teaching?
Nice. I did had this curious idea where I just asked the ChatGPT Pro version, creating from using a detailed prompt from this view, show me this particular structures, but I couldn't get the image what I was expecting. It did give an image, a flawed one, obviously, but which can be modified. So I felt yes, it can do at a certain extent, but not as a creator expects it. So I felt maybe the images, schematic images which are being created or better handled from a manual level, maybe using some smaller softwares from a medical educator perspective. Maybe when future AI has got further improvisation, they have the capacity to do, but maybe at this level it has not achieved from a medical educator's point of view, man.
It's all about prompt writing, actually.
Yes,
Yes.
sir, yes,
You have
yes, sir.
to learn that first, and I think you can take help of people like Chinmay and others who are. I think you can help to get prompt writing. Many times you write a prompt very lightly and very vaguely. I think better to, if I have seen now with working on these various things, if you write a prompt properly, you would be able to get a image which you want. And especially now there are so many medical imaging apps which would provide you. Of course, there's a copyright issue and we have to really see, but you can take your own photograph and you can ask these apps to create a vision. I mean, you can write it on your a pen and pencil and draw it what is in your mind, and then put it and then ask them to really do this. I don't know how many of you really see uh, this Geostar has created a Mahabharat. And last, I think every weekly they introduced one. And the whole Mahabharat is by AI generated, every image. Now, what has happened in that AI generated Mahabharat is really good for imaging point of view. But some way other their dialogue delivery and this has flawed. So I think
Very
it's
succinct.
interesting to see what experiments are being done on this and how do we really look at it. I'm sure, but as you rightly said, you have to really put what is in your image, write a proper prompt, and then put it into one of these Canva Pro, or there are so many apps, I think, which we do. They will create an image for you and in shots can give you the videos. So I think you both have a wonderful thought process. So I think use little technical help, and I'm sure you can be of a great help to the medical educational guys. This is a new wave we want to create, in our country where students don't have access and the engagement becomes low. I'm always keeping in mind my 13-year-old granddaughter, how would she react? And I personally feel if there's an engagement like this, they would react much better rather than reading textbooks like this. So I think if the new generation, if you are able to capture them and refine this kind of games and with a focus, and they should be part tool of your teaching, not complete tool of teaching. So think about integrating this in your day-to-day curriculum. And then I think we can really do. I think what Sala said, emotions are
Yeah.
lost, generated. Yes, true, very true. But images can be created.
Yes, sir. Thanks for those
And
insights, sir.
there's
Now,
one more question where Dr. Kanchan has asked,
yeah,
was it one
large group,
large group teaching activity or a small group activity?
multiple small group.
Multiple small group.
In both the cases.
Myself, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Both of you can
Suresh, for
answer.
both of
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Both are small group teaching, ma'am. Both the image group as well as physical model group, we have divided into 7 to 8 small groups. And for the 3D image group, we have conducted in our digital library. Whereas physical model group, we conducted in our demonstration room, ma'am. So there is sufficient space to move around, but at the same time, the peer discussion should not interrupt the other peer group. So we maximized in such a way that everyone is felt accommodated, but at the same time, there was not much of voice disturbance.
Yes.
Very nice.
And I think
Surupanini?
it was something similar with Krishna
Uh,
Mohan Sarapaneni
yeah,
too.
yeah, 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 it is.
Same thing, no?
Okay. I have one more question for Dr. Suresh.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you go about reporting the so-called negative findings? We are
Ma'am,
always bent upon proving that it works.
yes,
So,
ma'am.
what
It
gave you the
took.
courage to report a negative finding?
Actually, we were not of the mindset to write the paper, first of all. No. We thought, anyhow, the paper we are going to be rejected because we had the mindset that always positive findings are the ones which gets reported. But at the same time, we didn't want, since being a very simple way to incorporate anatomical thing, we didn't want this to go as a waste. But so we thought, let's dig. Has anyone got such similar findings? When we digged upon, we could find 1 or 2 articles, but without any justifications. So we spent a lot of time, almost 2 to 3 months, we spent on finding about what are all the possible discussion points which we could think of. And well, maybe one point we got in 1 month, like that. So by the end of third month, we could find at least 3 points to justify our findings. At some point, we convinced ourselves that yes, this is acceptable. We seek a third person opinion who is a very close friend of mine, and he said, yeah, these discussion points could justify it, and we went ahead with it. Luckily, we were astonished that it got accepted, being there was no significant findings. And we could get some very nice reviewers' comments, like how the study can be made better, what are all the future researches which could happen in this avenue. All those have given some nice insights on how to explore our research. That was some learning which we could find from this project. Yeah, very useful.
Wonderful. Really nice. What I see here is a pattern that both of you had your own self-beliefs that this idea will work, and you chose to explore it.
Kudos to that.
Yes. And then you chose to back it up with in-depth literature review. It's not just an idea, but also, believing in taking it forward, planning it and implementing it. And most importantly, the crucial step of actually writing a manuscript and submitting it, and then working on the reviewer comments and taking it to its logical conclusion. So, hats off to both of you for having done this. Suchita ma'am, do you have any last question before I have my final comments here?
No, no, I think wonderful. Congratulations once more, and well done. Over to you. I think we are already 2 minutes off the time, so
Yeah.
let's end
So,
it. Yeah. And
uh,
thank you
with
everyone for
your
being here.
permission,
Thank you so
Suchita
much.
ma'am,
Really, I
I would
really
like to make one announcement.
Yes.
We will
Yes,
be
yes, go ahead.
building an AHP repository of resources. So we would very happily invite your contributions to that. We are going to have a repository. And if you're interested in sharing your resources with us and making it publicly available, we can do it through our website platform too. And this is an open invitation to all our members. We will be screening it for quality, of course, and then it's going to go onto our repository. And we would be very happy to see our community grow further than that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and have
Thank
a
you.
Good
good
Thank
night.
you
night.
very much.